Okay, so good evening, everyone. Again, a very warm welcome to all of you. I am Nidhi, a fellow runner. Started running in around 2014, and for first 2 years, running was just another exercise for me. I never participated anywhere. Since 2016, I have been participating in events regularly, and I have been, part of around 38, 40 odd events. I started with 10 kilometers, and I have till date finished couple of marathons and one hill run as well. So, Vikalp is my endeavor to bring healthy eating and active lifestyle to every life I touch. Uh, I also teach sports nutrition and exercise physiology at NASM Mumbai, and I'm associated with couple of hospitals in Mumbai as a dietitian also. So this is a brief introduction about myself. Being a nutritionist has always helped me in my running journey, you know. So, in more than a one way, you can say in more than one way, it has always helped me. Now, as I can give you an example currently also, that since most of us are not, running much, our, running mileage has, reduced a lot. So, what we are all doing is we are, doing strength training, we are trying to build our muscle mass, we are trying to basically build our strength. So these days, what I'm been doing is I'm taking care of my proteins also. So these small steps I have always observed in my journey and in people who I have counseled and whom I have counseled for nutrition. I have observed that these small steps have always helped them in some way or other. Now the thing is that we all have certain training plan. Okay, there is a certain way we all train ourselves. Okay, so our nutritional plan, as I gave you an example, so if I'm working on my strength only these days, I'm not running much, so what I need to take care is my proteins. So similarly, always there is a training plan, and there has to be a nutrition plan which is supporting that training plan. Okay, so when I say so, that means that independently having eating good food is good, but when I'm talking about performing sports, when I'm talking about runners running marathons, so we have to have a nutritional plan that supports our training plan, right? Now, then obviously the next question comes up that what if I don't follow a nutritional plan? What if I do my training to the T, and will I not get results? Will I not get what I am aiming for? Well, yes, you will. I will not say that you will not get it. You will be able to achieve it, but the only problem is that the time you will take to achieve that will be much more as compared to if you work, with nutrition. Okay, if you combine your training with nutrition, you will achieve the same thing in lesser time as compared to if you are doing it alone, only training, and sometimes it might not happen as well because you will give up in midway because it will take so much of time. Okay, so it is if I have to give you an example, just imagine that I have to go to Pune, right? I have to go to Pune and reach in within 4 hours. I have some work out there, so I can choose whatever I want to. I can go running, I can go by a bicycle, I can go by a scooter, a two-wheeler or a four-wheeler, So in case I don't intend to reach in 3-4 hours, I can use any method. But if I have an intention to reach within 4 hours, to reach within a certain amount of time, okay, then it is very, very important that I go by a four-wheeler. Okay, so basically adopting one nutritional strategy with your training strategy is just one additional tire. That's it. Okay, so that depends. So and the risks are less. Okay, the risks are less, as we know that in the similar example I can see if you are going by a bicycle or going running, and if you're going by a four-wheeler, obviously the risks involved in a four-wheeler are way less as compared to if it's a long journey. The risks involved with a four-wheeler is very less as compared to a two-wheeler or going by bike and all. Okay, so that is what I've always felt. So now that so that I am being very clear on this, that you are, as a performing sports person, your nutritional strategy has to be as per your training strategy. It cannot go on different paths. It has to be same. Okay, it has to be having same achieve, same thing they both of them want to achieve, right? Now, having said that, a lot of time when I meet sports people, I have heard this jargon a lot, that it's only 20% that exercise training matters, 80% is nutrition. So I have repeatedly heard this, and somewhere I'm quite sure about it, that it is not 20-80% or 80-20%. It is basically your 100% commitment and dedication to both of them. Okay, so the way you are committed to your training goals, the way you are committed to your training, if in that way you are not committed to your nutritional strategy, it won't be that effective. Okay, it won't. Yeah, as we are talking about, an additional tire in our vehicle, so it will not function as an additional tire. It might give you certain benefits, but it will not be, so it is 100% dedication to both your training as well as your nutrition. That is what matters. That is what makes your performance better. Okay, so this so right now, till now, what we have discussed is that why we should have a nutritional strategy while we are training ourselves. Why should we have a nutritional strategy? So I think that must be clear to all of you, that why we should have this nutritional strategy with us. Okay, now once we are clear with why we should have it, now the next question comes is that how we will do it. See, eating is one thing. From past 7 years, I have been working in this field, and I can say with a lot of confidence that eating is more related to your habits. Okay, it is a behavioral change, basically, more than a change in your this habits, daily habits. If you want to change your habit, maybe you can change it a little easily, but if you want to change your behavior, it is very difficult. So eating is a behavior. First of all, we need to understand that. Okay, so once we understand that, we need to understand that once we are into performing sports, when we are thinking of improving our performance, or there are multiple things for people which people do it. So we should understand that if that is the case, then there has to be some some behavioral change needed. Because see, I have seen a lot of people, so let us be very true to ourselves. Nobody enters into even performing sports or professional sports also to improve on their eating behaviors. Okay, people enter into the world of sports or nutrition because they enjoy a sport, or they like a sport, or sometimes they think that rather the reason why they join the sport is that I have seen this psychologist mentality in people, particularly when they just start into performing sports, that we are performing because हम कुछ भी खा सकते हैं. ओके, क्योंकि मैं इतना भाग लिया तो अभी मैं कुछ भी खा सकता हूँ. सो रादर देन adopting this performing sports for certain for improving your behavior, you are not doing that. You are doing it for your because you like it, or because you want to achieve a certain, because some people join because they want to lose weight. So nobody joins a performing sports to improvise on their nutrition. But I am sure there are so many accomplished people, accomplished runners, who are a part of this group, who know that after a certain period of time you end up changing your total behavior. But how this happens? This happens when you are when you are training properly, when you are doing your when you have certain targets, when you have certain goals to achieve, and you are just running behind them, and slowly in that course, after 4 years, 5 years, you look back and see, that time I was not able to. I've seen so many cases, people have quit smoking, people have quit, it's a lot of things, because they entered into performing sports. But that happens as a result of total dedication. Okay, so you cannot possibly on a first day, you cannot reach from A to Z. There are steps involved. Okay, so the first step which we need to take is to adopt a nutritional strategy. We'll be talking now on how to adopt a nutritional strategy, right? So when I say how, see, this is something which I have made. Okay, you can just have a look at it. Okay, basically, see, if you see towards the left, it is saying training, the goals. Okay, so training goals, I am sure everybody makes. Training goals are there with everybody, but body composition analysis, see, that is one of the areas where I have always seen that a lot of people, a lot of runners, even runners who are regular, they also sometimes, they don't find it very important to get it done. Okay, so BCA is a very, very important thing. BCA means that you know that what is the percentage of fat in your body, you know what is the percentage of lean mass in your body. Okay, why that is very, very from the training perspective, I'm not a right person to comment, because the coaches would know that how much important it is. But from the perspective of nutrition, that is very, very important. Okay, because fat, see, the fat is one excess fat. There are body subcutaneous and visceral. Okay, so subcutaneous fat is something which doesn't, which is helpful to runners, but visceral fat is something which is bad for runners. So sometimes, you might have an ideal body weight, but your visceral fat might be high. That might be one of the reasons that your performance is not increasing. Okay, so having your training goals is first thing, then having your BCA goals, in case they are, you need to get them checked every 2-3 months. You need to get them checked, and in case there is something needs to be done, your fat percentage needs to be reduced, or so nutritionally that is very, very important. Then you have to have your energy goals. Like, for example, if I show you this, you can see that that there are certain columns: training, BCA, energy, and protein. Okay, now there are months which are written up on the on the top. So for September, October, November, there are certain training goals, there are certain BCA goals. Then according to them, what is your energy needs and what are your protein needs. And similarly, we can go ahead in this. Okay, you can make it on an Excel, you can make it on a plain paper, copy, simple, whatever is comfortable to you. But prepare this chart before you get your training chart. Okay, so once this is there with you, you have to be very, very sure that those energy needs have to be met, those protein needs have to be met. If those energy and protein needs are being met, then obviously slowly your training, whatever you want to achieve in your BCA, whatever you want to achieve in your training will be accomplished very soon. Okay, so this is one thing. Secondly, we are talking about how to do it. This is the basic way to start with. You have to get this. Now, after you have made this, you have your goals clear. You know that, okay, these 3 months I will be doing this, and next 3 months I will be doing this, and this is my off season. All those things are then clear to you. Okay, after that, what you need to do is, there are two options available after that. Either you take a diet plan and start following it. But I, as a runner, with my experience, would tell you that rather than following diet charts, have an habit of following the total guidelines. Start developing diet charts for yourself, because that is very, very important for a person to follow it for the long time, longevity. So for making diet chart for yourself, it is very, very important that you know what is the general guidelines, what are the basic guidelines which need to be taken care before you are, because see, for calculations and everything there are a lot of apps available these days. Okay, even we nutritionists also, sometimes I don't use any app because I have my Excel in place, but there are many nutritionists who are using apps only to design your diet charts. So those apps are available to you also. But the thing is that, do you know the basic guidelines? First of all, let us make sure that we know the basic guidelines. Okay, so this today's talk is mostly about the basic guidelines. Okay, now see, we all know that there are carbohydrates, there are proteins, there are fats, there are vitamins and minerals. These are the major nutrients which are important when we are considering considering following a diet or something. Now, there are 2 3 things which we need to understand, that excess of glucose. Okay, first I'll explain a little bit about glycogen, then we will come back to the nutrition part of it. So excess of glucose, when it is formed in your body, okay, it is converted into glycogen by your liver, and it can be stored in liver, and it can be stored in your muscles. Okay, now what happens is that your liver has a limit. It can only store 100 grams of glycogen, that's it. Okay, now that is static, that is fixed. In case you are an average health person, that will happen anyways. Okay, you don't need to work hard for it. But if you want to improvise your glycogen stores, you need that your muscles should also store it. Okay, and your muscles will only store glycogen when they are formed properly. They are basically first of all formed properly, and they are used properly. So there the role of training comes, right? If you train well, your muscles are available for glycogen stores. But glycogen storage के लिए available है, that does not mean that glycogen storage starts happening. So if you are not eating right kind of carbohydrates, that glycogen storage won't happen also. Okay, so first of all, like the role of BCA comes here also. Okay, because BCA, agar if you have checked your BCA, you know your muscle mass is fine, then only there is a point of according to your muscle mass we would give you carbohydrates. Okay, that's how it happens. So that is why from nutrition's point of view, it is very very important that you know your muscle mass and you know your fat percentage, right? Now as I told you that muscle glycogen stores are very very important. Okay, second thing which is very very important is your insulin secretion from your body. Okay, so we all know that very very important. Okay, so okay, I think there was a little disconnect. Now it's fine. Is it audible? Okay, fine. So I was talking about insulin secretion. Okay, so insulin is very very important. Okay, insulin is very very important when it comes to your glucose metabolism, and the timing of the food. See, there is a general conception that okay, मैं ठीक खाता हूँ, I eat fine, so that is fine. So I don't eat anything junk, I eat good food, and I can eat it anytime. This is not so. See, jitna important, the importance of the timing of the meal is similar to importance of what you eat. If you're eating perfect foods, but you're not eating at right time, like you are eating like 1 hour, half an hour before sleeping, you are eating the best of the foods. You are eating, maybe your oats or whatever that thing. Whatever, best of the things, even if you're eating, but you're eating half an hour before your sleep, then that's of no use. So the insulin secretion is dependent upon the timing of the meal and the muscle glycogen stores. The liver glycogen, 100 gram of glycogen is always there. The challenge is anyways, our body has just a capacity to store 500 grams of glycogen, not more than that. Half a kg, imagine, just half a kg of tissue, and so 100 grams is fixed, that everybody has. Then like next 400 grams, okay, next 400 grams is something which you need to work upon. So that will only happen if first of all, if your muscles are ready. Second, if you are taking right kind of carbs and at right time. Okay, otherwise this will not happen. Okay, now when I'm spoke about the glycogen stores, there is one more very important thing which you need to understand is that certain people have genetically they have this their muscle tissue is such that they can store a lot of glycogen in that. So typically Asian populations are not Asian populations have to work very hard to away, but certain populations have those kind of things. So that is the reason they don't, they can run, they can do a lot of things without the effort, with kind of effort which we people need to do. Okay. Now once these two things are clear to you, now we can come on to the carbohydrate intake. Okay. So typically if you are a 10-kilometer runner, okay, so see what happens is, now understand this, that for first 1 hour of your run, you use almost 55 to 65% of your glycogen stores. Your there is a traditional concept that it's only glycogen from which you get energy while running. No, it's not so. This concept was there till 60s and 70s. Till that time there was no biochemical research and all. So after that, the newer research supports that you get energy from all carbohydrates also, fats also, proteins also. Throughout your runs you get energy from all the three things. But the difference is that in first hour of the run, you are getting your energy from your 55 to 65% of your energy from your carbohydrates, and then 20-25% of your energy from your fats, and then 5 to 15% of energy from your proteins. And energy from the proteins remains consistent, like 5 to 15%, depending upon your muscle mass, and there are so many factors involved. So that is 5 to 15%. Now after 1 hour, what happens is that the equation of fats and carbohydrates totally, it's an opposite. Okay. So now you are deriving your 55 to 65% of energy from carbohydrates and lesser energy, from fats, and lesser energy from carbohydrates. Okay. So for shorter runs, like for 10 kilometers, smaller runs, so it is literally your fat intake doesn't matter much. Okay. If you are just planning to run a 10 kilometer, even the runs, the people who run fast, so they don't need to take care of much of their fat. But when it comes to runners who have to run for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours or more, okay, then the fat intake is also equally important as the glycogen stores are important. Okay. The protein intake has to be consistent and constant throughout the year. But throughout, whenever you eat, you have to eat consistently certain amount of protein, because protein intakes, increasing protein intake doesn't help in your energy expenditure in any form. Because see, protein is something which is very, very I can say it's very catabolic for the body to burn protein. Okay, so protein should be first used for your muscles, first used for your first it should be used for its work, that is bodybuilding, that is muscle building, that is for recovery. That should be the protein's first work. Providing energy should not be the proteins work. It should come either from carbohydrates or it should come from fats. Okay, so very clearly 10-kilometer people, they can they are dependent upon carbohydrates totally on their glycogen stores. And then if you are running for more than 1 hour, for 2 hours, for 3 hours, then only your fat intake comes into picture. Okay. So having said that, so now we understand that initially the body burns glycogen, then body burns fat. Okay. Now when I say 1 hour, this will not be please one more thing which we should understand, everybody should understand, that one thing can work for me cannot work for you. That happens in training also. We all know that, right? With our experiences, we all know that. So in nutrition also same thing happens. Sometimes something can work for me, does not work for other person. So whenever you make any nutritional strategy, don't follow others. Okay, don't follow others. Just have your own nutritional strategy, what works for you. Something might work for me, something might work for you. So similarly, but this is a guide, this is a standard guideline that for smaller runs, then you have to take care of your. Okay, so for the there is a question. I'll take questions in 5 minutes. Just give me 5 minutes. Let me just sum it up, and then I'll take the questions, right? So Yeah. So, fine. So for 10 kilometers, carbohydrates are important, and for long runs, even fats are important. Now, how much to take? See, typically a diet of a runner should have a certain amount of protein, that is 1.4 to 1.5 gram protein per kg body weight. That should be a standard always. Okay. In case in between, just like current days, if you are working more on your strength, then it's advisable, in case you are working that much, working out like 1 hour, more than 1 hour on your muscles, and you're trying to strengthen your muscles, then it's advised, then you can have a little more, like 1.8 gram per kg body weight, that much you can have. So that is a standard protein which you have to take throughout the year. Okay. So protein intake might not be touched, and then there is there is something called off season also. There a couple of months, we don't run and all. So all those times, also the protein intake should not go less than 1 gram. That should be at least 1 to 1.2 should be maintained always. Okay. Carbohydrates need to be around 60 to 65% of our diet. Okay. But the type of carbohydrates is very, very important. We have to have the carbohydrate products which are complex. We all know what are complex carbs. Simple carbs should be discarded. Every event, couple of months, I always, what I follow and what I recommend is that stop having simple carbs once you start. Just have simple carbs that you have to have during during the race time, and you have to a little bit of glucose and all those simple carbs you have. But stop your simple carbohydrates, stop your sugar, stop your any kind of simple carbs during the during your race season. Whenever there is race, just stop it. Post that, once you are into off season, once you are not running alone, then you can have a little bit of simple carbs. Because simple carbs what is the problem is that simple carbs, first of all, they if you are very habitual of it, like 3 times in a day you eat maybe some sweets or something like that, what happens is that your insulin secretions go haywire. When insulin secretion go haywire, then your appetite goes haywire. Okay. Then you feel hungry as and when you feel hunger a lot, because insulin secretion means you will feel hungry. Okay. So then you cannot follow proper schedule of eating. Okay. So that is one of the reasons we always say that stop simple carbs once you are once you know that season is started. Try to stop, try to totally limit it, and if you can eliminate it, it's the best. Okay. Now complex carbs may also the complex carbs should also be, see, there are certain foods like beet, there are sweet potato, which are almost available only in certain seasons. So those season are if that's available, that those are the things which have to be included in a diet of a marathon runner. That's very, very important. Okay. And in case there are people who are not very comfortable with beet, so yes, that happens in certain people. Certain people cannot tolerate beet. That's very common. That's nothing to worry about. So if beet is not there in your diet, that does not mean that it's something, because it doesn't suit you. It doesn't suit you. As I told you, that something works for somebody, that same thing might not work for other person. Okay. So this is regarding, so carbohydrates mein type is important. You have to have certain foods which are having complex carbohydrates. You can have, see now a very debatable question is rice. Is rice a complex carb or a simple carb? Okay, so rice is rice is the simplest form of, I always say rice is the simplest form of complex carb. Okay, so you don't need to stop rice. You need to stop sugar. You need to stop any artificial sweetener. You need to stop jaggery. You need to stop things which immediately give you an insulin spike. Those are the things I'm talking about. Rice you can have once in a while. Yes, you can have and particularly during night time one should not have rice. During daytime one should have. So this is about the general guidelines, that this is what I can say, not even a complete guidelines, but general sense that your protein intake should be fixed, your carb intake should be complex carb. Then we come on to fat. Now fats is very, very important for a marathon runner. Fats should form almost 25 to 30% of your 20% of your diet. Sometimes it forms. Now what are the sources of fat? What kind of fat you should eat? Now see, there is a certain percentage in which the fat should be taken. Okay, there are when I say fat, fat does not only means oil and ghee. Fat also means cheese. Fat also means the fat which is available in people who are non-vegetarian. The fats who available in non-vegetarian food. When I talk about fats, I talk about fats available in nuts. All those fats, So see, there is a certain combination of fats you have to eat always. So the combination goes like that: there are such a certain polyunsaturated fatty acids, and there are certain monounsaturated fatty acids, and there is something called saturated fatty acids. We all know saturated fatty acids are the saturated fats are the fats which are solid at room temperature. Okay, so 5:3 is the ratio. Five portions of your fat should be PUFA, and 3 portion of your fat should be SFA plus MUFA. Now this is different for different populations. In case there is somebody who is having a high cholesterol, somebody who is having diabetes, somebody who is having hypertension, it varies for them. But for a person who is having no disease, this is the ratio in which the person should consume the fat. So if you consume the fat in right proportions, the fat that is called good fat. Some people are like saturated fat is bad fat, unsaturated fat is good fat. No, it's not like that. If it's not eaten in right proportion, even PUFA can cause problems. Okay, because the combination is something which is very, very important. Now, having said that, I am not recommending the combination oils available. That is not recommended. It is always recommended to keep 2 types of oil in the house. Okay, 2 types of you should use certain oils like mustard oil is there, coconut oil is there, or sunflower oil is there, canola oil is there. So all these oils, and you have to use your ghee, your butter along with it, and your cheese. Cheese is also a very good source, but not the processed cheese. Okay, the original cheese, the cheddar cheese, or the cheese which is not very tasty. Okay, so the one which we get in packets, that's a processed cheese. So that is little high in sodium content, which is not good. Okay, so here we have covered the carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, and I hope everybody is now there is a question: if body fat is high but muscle mass is okay and body weight is okay, what is the reason? Okay, so Shikha, see, the body weight can be okay, and body fat, the reason for this is the training is not happening properly. The training has some, as I told you that, see, there is nothing called a thumb rule कि सबके लिए एक तरह की training नहीं होती. So because see, what happens is, if your carbohydrate intake is more, okay, as I told you that if your muscles, you are saying that muscle mass is fine. If your muscle mass is fine, then what should happen is the excess of carbohydrate, even if you are eating, that should go to your muscles and not get converted into fat. So what is happening right now is that either your carbohydrate intake is little higher, so you are that carbohydrate is not, but that carbohydrate is not getting converted into muscles. So why that is not happening is because maybe you are exercising a little less. Usually body fat percentage increases when we stop exercising. Right now, if everybody will get it done, most people will have high body fat percentage in case they are not exercising at home and all. So that happens only when your training is not happening properly. That is the reason. Okay, so fine. Now, once we have discussed these things, a very, very important thing to come up is water and electrolytes. Okay, that is a very, very important part of runner, because how much to drink, everybody knows, around 500 ml, 200 to 500 ml every half an hour, every 1 hour or half an hour, as and when needed. Okay, now see, when it comes to plain water, that's okay. See, few things which I have seen personally, also observed personally also, that people do is that in their training runs, when they are preparing for marathons, in their training runs, they start having those sugary drinks. Sugary drinks are not good particularly to begin with, you know, to begin with, when you are training, at least for half an hour or 1 hour, you don't need any water, and that should not be taken, because that is the way it happens. After around, you know, 1 hour, even if you need, you cannot have sugary drinks. You have to have the maximum amount of glucose in that drink should be 6%. Okay, which is not even sweet to taste by tongue. Okay, so a lot of new formulations. See, if anybody has tasted the old ORS, the ORS which used to come in, that is still available, you know, the plain ORS, that green packet. So that is the taste, that is the kind of, you know, electrolytes and glucose you need. Beyond that, all that flavoring things, they are, so always, you know, whatever sports drink you are following, just make, even if you are making it at home, like you are mixing jaggery with water, it should be only 6%, which has to be used during the runs. More than that glucose has a negative impact, because more than that glucose will cause an insulin spike, and that will cause your glycogen to burn faster. You want to burn your glycogen slowly. You want to, you know, you don't want to expend it just for, you know, just for your metabolic purpose. You want to store it for your run, for the strength for your run, right? So that's very, very important, that those sugary drinks are not good for your training runs. You have to have you know, very less. You have not more than 6%, as I told you, and that drink should always contain a little bit of sodium. Okay, that's very, very important. Intake of sodium, excess intake of sodium can cause a lot of problems. Less sodium causes cramps. Okay, people who sweat a lot, okay, they need to, in my opinion, they should replenish their sodium stores after 10 kilometers. Every 10 kilometers at least, they should replenish their sodium stores. But that does not mean that everybody needs to have a salt capsule after, you know, 10 kilometers. People who sweat a lot, there are people who sweat less, you know, they can have it, you know, maybe 15 kilometers later, or maybe sometimes they don't even need. Okay. So for longer runs, obviously you will need, for 10 kilometers anyways, you don't need any salt capsules. Ideally, you should not use any gels also, because in those runs it's not required. Your food should be enough for you to run a 10 kilometer. Beyond that, you know, that depends individual to individual, but you know, a simple what I can say, a bird's eye view I'm giving you, that this much, you know, you should have. Sugary drinks are not good for your runs, and even for your training runs. Then after the water and electrolytes, what we can discuss is okay. So now I can start with, you know, maybe how to prepare for a particular how do we prepare for a particular event, if we are planning for an event, like, so how soon we need to, you know, because training strategy, I'm sure everybody knows that how do we get training strategy, how do we start following it. So when do we start preparing from the nutritional point of view? When do we start preparing from that perspective? So if you want that it should show in your performance, that nutritional strategies should show in your performance also, you should at least start 4 months before any particular event you are targeting for. Okay, so the first month of preparation, or the 4th month to the event, okay, the first month of preparation will involve a high protein diet. High protein diet, when I say, it is like 1.8 gram per kg, that's it, not beyond that. So if you are eating that high protein, and always remember that you always increase proteins, carbs in increment. You do not increase in a day. So today I tell you that you need to eat, you know, this much of protein. So from tomorrow you cannot eat this much of protein. If today you are eating 0.8 gram per kg, so tomorrow you cannot probably digest 1.8 gram per kg. Okay. So it has to be increased in increments. So it increases in increments, and by the end of the the first month of preparation, it has to reach 1.8. From second month onwards, from the second month, you have to. For the second month, what you have to do is, you have to take care of your vitamins and minerals. Very, very important vitamins and minerals which need to be taken care of. First is B vitamins. Okay, so when you are on high calorie diets, when you are on diets which are high in protein, high in carbohydrates, it is very, very important to supplement them with B vitamins. Simple. It's B vitamins are very very common. You can you get it. B complex is also one of them, and Bicasol is there. So there are so many capsules available. But B vitamins are very very important, particularly if you are on vegetarian diet. That's very very important. Then you have to take care of your vitamin D and B12. That is very very important. Okay. After that, iron and calcium. So these are certain macronutrients, certain micronutrients which are very very important when it comes to your running, because these are the vitamins and minerals which are depleted very fast and which have to be replenished. So always get them checked once in a year. When you get your health checkup done, always get them checked, and in case there is something you need to supplement it with. You cannot particularly I'll give you a word of caution. Vitamin B12 and vitamin D, these are some things which cannot be. So if they are below their very less, they cannot be supplemented with only food. You have to take certain supplements, because these days there is a lot of vitamin D deficiency, there is a lot of B12 deficiency, and I have seen people trying to do cover that up with your food. So if you already have a deficiency, you cannot cover it with food. If you have a history of deficiency, then you take care of that. Once you bring those levels to normal, then chances are that again you can go back. So then you maintain a particular diet to maintain those levels. Their diet comes into picture. If you already have a deficiency, so don't risk your life by running. Okay, all these vitamins and minerals are very very critical, because staying healthy is also equally important as run, right? So always make sure that these vitamins are part of your diet, as well as these vitamins once in a year you get them checked that they should be in their limits. Okay. So, and in case there is a history of deficiency of any of these vitamins, then you have to once in a year you have to replenish them, because if you are not taking care of your diet, if you are taking care of your diet, you can still manage them. Okay. So these are the vitamins and minerals which are typically important from the runner's perspective. So I guess I have covered all the general nutritional guidelines. Okay. So in case there is some question, anybody has a question, you can ask, and so that I can address it. So no questions at all? Sure, there are no questions. Okay, so then fine. Then let me give you a brief overview that from 4 as I told you that 4 months before the event you start preparing for the marathon from the nutritional strategy also. So initially there is a high protein, then there is next month there is a lot of you take care of your vitamins and minerals, you just make sure that you are taking them enough. Then when 2 months are left, then the carbohydrate excess of carbohydrates roles comes up, and then there is something called carbohydrate loading, which all of us do. Everybody has a different strategy to do that. So the typical thing to do is that you first what I personally feel and what works for me I'm sharing. There are various variations which are in practice, and there are variations which different variations work with different people. So around 2 weeks before any major event, I start I do a fast for 3 days. Okay, and post that I start having a little high protein diet for a week's time. Okay, then for 3 days moderate protein, one moderate carbohydrate diet, and last 3 days I take high carbs And again, carbs, as I said, carbs are always needed in, the complex carbs are only needed. Simple carbs are needed only in race replenishments, nowhere else. While you're and for 10 kilometers, so you don't need simple carbs only. If you're running a half marathon or a marathon, that's when you somewhere, in between, you have to, replenish your stores. There you need a little bit of glucose. Only there simple carbs are needed. Post that, before, one day before the race, just evening, what dinner you should have, that has to be a simple, dal, rice, some khichdi or something like that. Now, having energy bars or any sugary drink just before starting a race is a totally wrong practice. So if your race is starting at 6, the last meal should go inside you before 4. After 4, ideally for 2 hours, you should not eat anything. You can drink water, but you should not eat anything. Okay, why that is so is because if you take a little bit of carbohydrate just before the race, what happens is that when you start the race, okay, already the insulin spike has already occurred in your body, and your body is already in the mode of burning glucose. So your glycogen stores start replenishing very fast. Okay, so any high carb thing should not be taken just immediately before the race. You can have it in the previous 3 days, the days which you use for carbohydrate loading. There you can have it, but not on just before the race. Before the race, you can drink water, or maybe at 4 a.m. you can have a little bit of ORS, and you can have whichever electrolytes you are having. So those things you can have. Okay, so that's how it goes. So you should never have a sugary thing just before the race, thinking that okay, that will give me energy. No, that will not give you energy. Rather, that will increase the speed of glycogen burning, and that will exhaust you faster. Okay. Now another thing which which is very, very important, that how many times can we during this as I told you, that 4 months preparation is needed, okay, for for the race day. From the nutrition perspective, 4 months are the minimum time which is needed. Now, if that is the amount of time I'm investing in doing something, so 4 months, will I not be eating anything which is which I want to eat, or can I cheat meals in these 4 months? So last 2 months I will always recommend. Last 2 months, please maintain total discipline. Do not indulge in any kind of wrong food. That is also suffice. But previous to that also, in the 3rd and 4th month, you can have once in a week. Sometimes you can have cheat a meal. That's okay. That much is fine. But last 2 months, at least 2 months of strict nutritional discipline followed, will only show you results. This will not happen like one day if I do something, will it cost me? Yes, it will cost you. Yes, it will, whatever this much mehnat you are doing, that will go down the drain. So last 2 months should be totally strictly disciplined, right? Now then coming on to what are the differences between 10 kilometers, 21 kilometers and a full marathon, okay, with respect to diet. Okay, 10 kilometer is a run which has to be which is very, very easy, which is not, I'm not saying very, very easy, but which does not need any extra effort. Okay, if you are eating right, if you're eating less of simple carbs, complex carbs, fats and proteins are fine in your diet, you can easily complete a 10 kilometer run. Okay, now when it comes to 21 kilometers, the supplementation of energy in between is needed. Mostly people use some energy gels. Okay, and I personally, I have never even in my full marathons, I have never even used energy gel. Okay, so it is not that without energy gels you cannot finish a marathon, but then yes, obviously you need to replenish. So see, just like personally, I use honey and jaggery in between for that uh, uh, that energy, in between, so that can be used. But having said so, what I recommend is that during the 21 kilometers also, in case if you are doing, see, this is all about how much performance you want to improve. So always train hard, okay, train hard, and then use supplements. Don't run marathons based on the, that okay, I'll eat 2 gels and run that fast. No, that will not happen. If you're trained well, obviously support it with whatever you can, but then don't do it otherwise, that you are not worked hard and then now you think that you are pouring in something, in your mouth, and then you will run. So that will only deteriorate your health, that will not help you in any way. I've seen many people doing that also. uh, so still no questions? Ramesh, why running long distances, full marathon? What amount of fluid should be taken and nutrition? My weight 60 kg. Ramesh, see, that specific things we can discuss one to one, because there are a lot of factors. I think the broad things I have already touched, the broader things I have already touched. Recovery, yes, recovery, how to recover, yes, this is a very important thing which I think I have missed. Okay, so recovery should always, see, recovery happens in two parts. Okay, one is it happens for first 1 hour or 45 minutes. Some people for 2 hours. So there's an initial phase of recovery, and then after 2 hours till some weeks the recovery goes on. Okay, so I have seen this behavior in a lot of people, that once the event is over, now I'm done, now I can eat anything, now I can just no, that's not right. Post recovery, your food should contain at least 25% of, it should be protein. There should be carbohydrates in it. Fats are not important post recovery. Fats are very important pre, but post recovery, carbohydrates and proteins both are very, very important. Okay, so if you sweat a lot, and there is a lot of Amit has asked, and there is a lot of discomfort towards the end, so that means you have to hydrate much. You have a 1 week of hydration strategy with you before the event. Okay, in case that is case, if you are, so have those hydration, like have a couple of ORS every day. Okay, so have a hydration plan for 1 week before the event, that will help you a lot. Okay, so that's how it can be fixed. Complex carbo meals, complex carbohydrates means all your wheat is complex carb. Okay, but currently the kind of flour which is available in the market is not. You get that jada atta from some place, that is a complex carb. Then you can have the millets like nachni, ragi, jawar, all those are complex carbs. Okay, very good complex carb is whenever there is the season of sweet potato. Please always remember, do always in that season consume a lot, at least one sweet potato every day. That's a very, very good form of carbohydrate which is available. Okay, so that is there. Okay, fine. So I guess I have taken almost, yeah, bajra, jawar, wheat, yes. But wheat, the flour which is available in packets in normal, they are not complex carbs. Complex carbs would be if you get that wheat, from a chakki. They have a option of getting jada atta. So in normal language we say jada atta. So that. So thank you I think the time is almost, finishing. So thank you so much. And you can always visit my website, vikalpfit.com. Okay, there's a question. I am a type 2 diabetic. Is there any additional Mrityunjay, if you're a type 2 diabetic, then everything depends upon how is your diabetic control and what kind of medication you are on. So, because you need to take care of your carbohydrate intake a little more, because there are certain implications to it. Having said that, if you're regular with your training, okay, then I think a lot of things are taken care of. But then still you have to, you have to be very, very careful in your carbohydrate intake, because excess carbohydrate, particularly during the race days, then you have to take care. Soya protein is good. I mean, yes, it is good, but cannot be a substitute for your normal protein. It is good, but cannot be a substitute. So thank you very much for this session, and you're welcome. You can visit my website, vikalpfit.com. I have a Facebook page also in the name of Vikalp. Okay, so you can visit that page. In a few days, I'll be putting, whatever session we had today, I'll just jot. I regularly write blogs. So I'll write a blog and I'll post it on the MRR website. So you can just go through it. Whatever discussions we had, I'll just summarize it. We'll just, and whatever questions I have missed also, I'll take those questions and answer them, and I'll share that on your MRR page. So you can just check that. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for everybody for attending this session. So shall we wrap up, Ram? Is there any other? Mrityunjay, you take care of your diabetes first, okay? Thank you so much. Thank you, Ram. Thank you, Dylan. Thank you, Mr. Prabhu. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, MRR, for giving me this opportunity to come and share. This is a privilege, and I am so, so grateful to all of you. And I'm so grateful to be a part of MRR. Thank you so much. Thank you.